Welcome to Neutral Voices. And this is Voice of the People where your voice matters. Listen, y'all must be ready to talk because y'all had us going before we got on. But listen, we're going to get into this. Yesterday we talked about poverty. And we're going to get into it. We had some people comment and give us some concerns or questions and comments about poverty. But we have one right now. And this is a question we were talking about before we came on air. And we want to get into this. And we're going to see where we can talk about this. It says a deep question. Generational poverty. Poverty is passed down that is not just financial, but also affects a person's social, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Generational poverty. And you said that a little bit, Doc V, that poverty is not just we mistakenly just think homelessness and hungriness is poverty, right, but there's other aspects of poverty, and this person speaks on that.
Right.
So what do y'all think about generational poverty?
Can you read the main points of that again?
It says generational poverty. Poverty is passed down that is not just financial, but it also affects a person's social, emotional, and spiritual well-being.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like when we were talking. So we talked about unloved, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes in a household, I'm just thinking depression because I know somebody. It seems like their mom was always in a depressed state, always stayed to herself, always in her room. And so I believe that dark cloud kind of followed the child. And so that's a state of mind as far as depression or poverty that I think of when we think generational.
So you're saying poverty is not just a financial thing, if I'm understanding
Absolutely.
correctly.
That's what this young lady's saying. Yes.
So if we were to calibrate it and try to figure out which one is more impactful, is it the lack of financial stability or is it the lack of the love, the intentional affection that one would need?
The mindset. So if you come from I'll say if you come from an environment where there's no love, that is going to be more impactful versus the financial perspective. Because if that mindset is right and strong enough, you're built to have ideas to make wealth.
So in other words, in the midst of not having financial means beyond your needs, if I loved you and gave you all the attention you need, I could enrich your mind.
Yes, strengthen your mind.
Literally. So therefore, the poverty doesn't absorb you. The financial struggle doesn't. Let's say that.
Exactly.
So there are a lot of things that we can control, without saying that we need $1 million to make sure that you're okay.
Absolutely.
But we could love you to life.
Exactly.
Is that what we're saying?
That's what kind of gives birth to the situational poverty. So where we can have that discussion.
Well, I think, and James, you were hitting on that. I believe generational poverty, especially in this context in which we're talking, I think it's based a lot on the financial aspect. And I think we let our financial aspect affect our mental aspect, our spiritual aspect, because we feel like we don't have enough. We're not adequate enough because we don't have the material. We don't have the riches. We don't have that. So a lot of times when we're getting to that financial poverty, in which that's the problem, we need to come out of the financial poverty. And I'm not saying money is everything, but look how the world is structured.
So that conversation you're having is like, that's right where the adult is.
Right.
So
Exactly.
when we talk about walls existing to protect the innocent mind of a child, we as adults have a responsibility to keep the struggle away from the child.
Exactly.
It's like protecting them, correct?
Exactly.
So, man, that's powerful because a lot of times you won't even stop and think about that because you would waddle as an adult. You would immediately just let your situation absorb you. And then not be the parent that you should
Absolutely.
to protect that child.
Right.
Absolutely.
At all costs.
Yeah, and that's why I think the quote that I read last night from Mother Teresa, and she says, and I'll read it again because it was powerful. She says, we think sometimes poverty is only being hungry, naked, or homeless, but the poverty of being unwanted, unloved, uncared for is the greatest poverty. And then this I like. It says we must start in our own homes to remedy this kind of poverty.
It's powerful. It's
Yes.
real.
It's real. It's real. So it's both sides. And Dr. V, you mentioned the situational poverty. And I was just listening to Dr. Boyce Watkins before we came here. And he was talking about how you cannot separate situational and generational poverty. they're one and the same, or two. What is it? There's two wings of the same bird.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
because here's why I say that. Because, and he mentioned it, and he didn't go to great details, but I could understand, because I think we've had this conversation before too. That say like an athlete or an entertainer, these rappers and stuff, all of a sudden they come into all this money. Their first check, 9 times out of 10, it takes them out of the poverty state.
Right.
But the mindset, the situational or the generational poverty is, since I have it, I have to go get it.
Mhm.
So I go spend it. And E said before we came on air, Shaq tells the story like how he spent $1 million in one day.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But that's a combination of the situational and generational poverty, because now that you have come up, that means you got to spend it.
Mhm.
So you end up putting yourself back in that same poverty state
That's right.
before. Because Shaq said he didn't know who FICA was.
Right.
You know, half of that money wasn't his.
But think
Yeah,
about it. It's
but
just like that. That happens every tax time.
Well,
When
I
it's
mean-
tax season, you think about it. Some people we know, we're related to, etc. Your neighbor. Every tax season, people spend that money as soon as they get it. They wait for that so they can go shopping and buy some new kicks. I don't know. Air Jordan, is he still popping?
Yeah.
Well,
Whatever it is.
I look at it like what I was saying earlier. It's the mindset of the whole situation. Regardless if I got it, my only thing is I got to spend it. Like you said, I got to spend it now versus I got it. Let me hold on to it. Let me invest it. You know, the
Exactly.
smartest thing Shaq did once his banker called him, he said he would never do that again.
Mhm.
And literally, if you watch any of his commercials, his mindset is, if I'm on your commercial, I'm finna own a piece of the whatever I'm
Talking about.
whatever commercial
What
I'm
I'm
on.
endorsing.
Yeah, I'm owning a piece of it. So
Okay.
you can't get me without me getting a piece of that pie. You not just gonna pay me to be in the commercial. You're gonna pay me the long haul as well. So
Okay.
once you change your mindset,
Mhm.
everything else will roll a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
So passing on the torch of poverty mentally. So an individual, a parent, which is a conversation we were having a minute ago, can literally, in the midst of poverty, can protect a child from having that mindset.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes, it can.
What steps can a parent take to do that?
That's easy. And the problem we're having, and I hear a lot of parents say this, and I think it's wrong, especially in this generation where they're not telling their children no. I think that my kids can have, I give my kids everything that I didn't have. I make sure my kids don't have to want for the things that I wanted. So we what's the word? Spoil them.
Mm.
And we instead of, like in Eric and I love this movie, Fences. I love the dialogue between Denzel and his son. He was like, my love for you is not going to feed you. I got to get out and work. You got to get out of work. He was like, me sitting up here just making you feel good, that's not going to do any good for you. I'm trying to teach you how to move, how to be a man, and how to take care of yourself. But a lot of us will, insulate our children and just give them things, and we're not teaching them how to save, how to, get out and work for things, So we are at that, double-edged sword.
Or the other side of that is showing your child at a young age what poverty is, what it looks like. And so therefore, sometimes showing somebody what they don't want to be will help them be what they need to be.
Good point.
That's
So
a good
So-
point.
teach them what credit is
Exactly.
and how to protect your credit
Yes,
and grow it
absolutely.
and
But
put yourself in a
here's
good
the other
position.
end-
Absolutely.
Here's the other end of that.
Mhm.
A parent can only teach a child what they know.
And that's it.
Yeah, I totally disagree with that today.
Because
You
now
can?
you're saying they can tell them to Google.
Hey, Google.
I understand that, but
Like
That's
back
right,
in
they
the
got
day,
help today.
Back in the day,
They got
I could
help
listen
today.
to that. But
Yeah.
today, when you say I don't know,
Okay.
I mean,
I got
a problem with
that.
I'm just saying a lot of that. I'm just
Yeah.
saying back in the day,
Mhm.
a parent
Okay.
can only teach a child what they know.
yeah, back in the day,
But see, and
we
here-
done with that.
Well-
we
well-
off the farm.
Well, I
Yeah,
don't
we
know
done with
because
that.
you got some people that literally has that
Anti-technology.
That mindset.
They're
That
not even getting
mindset.
ready to
So-
look at it.
True that.
is you still. I can only teach you what I know, and if
True
I'm not
that.
willing to
But
learn
here's a beautiful
anything
thing
different-
about that: the child knows how to use technology.
They can go
Right.
get
Yeah,
it.
the child know how to use
You know,
technology,
like for
true
real.
indeed.
At
But
very
like I
young
said,
age now.
a lot of and it also goes to this: you don't need to learn that. You don't need to know this.
Put that down.
Put that down. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Mhm.
And there's
Yeah.
parents that scared for their child to really go further in life than they did,
Well,
Yeah.
and that's an improper mind right there.
yeah, that goes back to
It
what
is.
C Stats, the comment that he read. the social, the emotional, and the spiritual well-being.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes right back to that. You know, if I deprive you of the social growth, if I
Right.
deprive you of the emotional needs,
Yeah.
and if I deprive you of teaching you the spiritual well-being,
That's
or
right.
not, don't give that to you,
Right.
Yeah.
then I fail as a parent.
Right.
Correct.
Yes.
That does not account for the system, because the system is always going to do what it's meant
What
to
the
do.
system
That's
is.
why it's called
But
the
we
system.
can get in front of the system as parents and as
Mhm.
adults, and we could teach our youth and our kids, correct?
You,
Yeah.
Right.
you
So
definitely-
point, I think we agree with that comment, man, is real.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
we can go to the next one.
Yeah.
Keep
Well,
it moving.
before we go from that, I just want to say one thing in as far as what E is saying. The other thing, Mr. Scott, I think that we can't really tell them to go to Google or have them research is, I'll say, those gentleman skills, how to be a gentleman, how to be a lady. So there's certain things you can hear about it or whatever, but there's certain things in a household they need to see being lived out and demonstrated. You know what I'm saying? So I
hear
agree.
that,
I know, but I just want to say that
YouTube,
because I know you're
wanna
gonna
learn how to
say
rebuild the
it.
engine,
They got tutorials for
change a
everything.
tire.
Yeah, you can
I
almost
know,
do
but-
heart surgery on YouTube.
But listen,
Man, YouTube would teach you how to go pee.
Yes.
Like literally,
Literally.
YouTube
I'm gonna
is
ask you a
effective.
question.
But I only say
when
that
you say
because
YouTube, and I get
You
you
said
because
teach you how to
I go to
use the
YouTube University
bathroom.
all the time, but it's nothing like seeing
that, yeah,
your dad or your mom, and I know you see.
I'm not knocking that.
demonstrate love.
Yeah, it's,
But,
it's
but
something.
what I'm gonna
it's
say,
something
man,
different.
is
If I'm gonna ask you a question, and this is honest God truth, to see if your son were to see you change a tire or fix things in a household,
Yeah.
and he was learning from, I could go to YouTube and learn how to do it, but I'm looking at the best YouTube in the world.
My father,
My
and
father's showing me
his work ethic.
and his work ethic,
Okay,
and you
so-
have to get, you have to.
I'm gonna let you finish. Go ahead. I'm gonna hold my temple.
You're gonna hold your temple, okay, Eric?
I'm gonna hold my temple.
But is there's nothing like that father or that mother showing that child how to do it, regardless of all the technology in the
That's
world.
right.
But to see you actually do it
Yeah.
every day
Yes.
on a daily basis or on a
Yes.
weekly
Come on,
basis,
E.
that let me know, okay, this is what my father is showing me how to do. So I'm going to, guess what, do it. But there you go. Go ahead, do it.
No,
Go ahead.
or mama, wait,
or mama.
making the cake, making
Yeah.
the macaroni and cheese,
Put like
and you
this,
get
it's
to
women
see,
nowadays can't cook.
you get to see her in action,
Okay,
putting that love in.
y'all beating your
Okay,
point.
go ahead,
Yeah.
go ahead,
Let me in.
go ahead.
Let me go ahead. This is
Understanding where we are as a people.
Yeah.
How many
Technology
broken
gonna
homes
kill
do
us.
we have?
How many broken homes?
How many broken homes do we have?
We have
The
a lot of broken
percentile.
homes.
they say we're about 70%.
We have a lot of broken
Listen
homes.
to the
They
numbers.
say
That's
we're
real,
about
right?
70%. That's
Okay,
real.
Okay.
So logistically, we need to change our mindset of how we teach and what's normal and what's abnormal for today.
Right.
Things are not the same.
Right.
So we need to understand what we have in our hands, and we need to utilize those tools. I would never say that the physical presence of a man changing a tire can be overpassed or overlooked according to YouTube. But what I'm saying is understanding
Yeah.
our entire trajectory that
Right.
we have in front of
Right.
us.
Okay.
What is the best tool that we have
Technology.
to teach our
Yes.
kids, every child?
Yeah.
If you got a dad, count it a blessing that
Right.
could do that. If
Okay.
you have a mentor, count it a blessing that could do that.
Right.
But young man, if you don't have a mentor nor a dad, understand the power of YouTube. That's all I'm saying.
I'm gonna get off this point. I got to go with you.
Yeah.
We got to get off this
I got
point.
you, I got
because
you.
if that wasn't true, they wouldn't have gotten rid of textbooks and gave kids iPads and laptops.
We're in a
If
new
that wasn't
age.
true, if that wasn't true, they would still be in textbooks. But we're gonna go home, and this next one, it says, you all spoke about the middle class as middle poverty. I myself am in veteran poverty. In veteran poverty. I myself find myself on both spectrums. I'm currently a public service worker. My job doesn't pay as core competitive wages as other jobs. And if I was a veteran with mental or physical impairments, I would have problems working and being able to afford my health care.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about, the middle class. And think about the middle class. COVID, you said this yesterday, Doc V. COVID showed people where they really were financially.
Mm.
It really did. When you weren't going to work and getting those checks, it showed you where you were. And then what did that do? That stimulated the government to start, just filtering money or flowing money into the economy, thinking that if we pour money more in the economy, it's going to stimulate more growth. But I think that backfired more than it did, because now they're saying people don't want to work.
Right.
Man, you tell me somewhere where I can get some free cheese. I mean, what?
Going to get
But that's
When you get it.
right. But that we're talking about mindset, and we're talking about systems. Let's combine them, because sometimes the system alters your mindset.
It does, but it also encouraged a lot of people, allowed them to realize that they could start their own business. You know, that I don't really need to work for anybody because I'm intelligent enough and I've been off work long enough to actually put some things in place. So now I'm going to chase my dream.
Exactly.
So there are a lot of different ways to look at that. And there are so many different perspectives to everything.
Yeah,
But-
when you say that,
Mhm.
Jay, what I'm thinking is when we were talking about the other side of poverty, that would be the other side. Tapping into and within yourself and looking at what can I do to change my situation, my situational poverty.
Taking ownership of yourself.
But what
Yes.
about those? And we're going to talk about the other side. But what about those that don't have, that refuse to be equipped? Because we're talking about mindset. Let's be honest. There's some people that only want to be given to. And those are the
I
people.
know
Those
a
are
few of
takers.
those people.
Yeah, and they stay, because look at the
Yeah.
welfare system. The welfare system started in the late 1930s, and it was around after the stock market crash, the Great Depression, and everything like that. That's when it started. So welfare has been around since the 1930s. You mean to tell us that that system hasn't evolved to the point that it has people off the welfare system?
Okay,
No.
so listen, so some of that is generational poverty, because when you grow up and mom was on welfare, your cousins, etc., and then some people have adopted that whole mindset that it's okay, I can do it too. Even the ones that can actually get up and go to work.
Even with the mindset, Doc V, the system has not evolved to a point that it says, okay,
No more welfare?
Right. You've reached it. We've met the
It should never get to that point though,
Why
because
not?
it should be there for a particular situation and for a particular time.
I agree
a
with that.
season.
But here's what I'm saying. As you said, mama was on it, grandmama was on it, and
Right,
all of
but they
that.
don't need to be on it for a lifespan.
But that's where they are.
The system allows it.
Yeah, the system
And,
allows
and
it.
that's where I'm saying that's where the system is broken. So I don't agree with the system when it comes to that. It's kind of a lot of things, just like inequality when it comes to women versus men pay. So a lot of times we look at that. Look, the system allows it. A lot of women end up in poverty because of the inequality in pay. Like, for instance, listen to this. If women in this country received equal pay, poverty for working women would be reduced by half, which is, watch this number, blow your wig off, $512.6 billion would be added to the economy. Just
Say, if women were
if
what?
women in this country received equal pay, poverty for working women would be reduced by half, which is $512.6 billion, and it would be added to the economy.
That's such a huge comment.
It's a
and
big.
you're so hard. You're like women, and like when you talk about Biden and stuff, you really you really protect and shield things like that. So
You don't believe it?
I just know, like, if me and you were on the assembly line and then we had to lift 50 pounds every 60 seconds. You know what I mean?
I know, but you just don't believe the
Is
power
there
of
is
the
there a
woman.
such thing as the equality of the dollar there because you're a woman and you're there? Should you
Break your
if,
back.
if you're a
just-
woman and you're capable of the job, I get it. It's fair.
Yeah, if you're capable, you apply
Mhm.
for it. I mean, it is what it is. But the point is, we both teaching. We doing the same thing. I'm
Mhm.
subject to the same crazy as you are.
Mm.
Whatever it is, same hours, same conditions, driving. Why do you get more than me?
Yeah.
So certain jobs,
Certain jobs.
Certain jobs.
Certain
I go with
jobs.
certain jobs.
Certain
Yes.
jobs.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But we talk about poverty, and we the poor you will have with you always. But this thing about poverty, it can be solved or it can be resolved. I don't think can be solved. Do you think it can be solved or resolved or even brought down to a manageable level?
Of course, of course,
Like,
of course.
It's inevitable, but we have way more than enough resources. I'm talking about not just financial resources, just resources in general when it comes to food, anything that you would need to make sure that the masses are well off or at least okay. To say that one right at 1% of the general population in America controls the wealth.
Right.
Less than 1% in China. China is worth $113 trillion,
Mm-hmm.
and less than 1% controls the wealth.
Controls the wealth.
America is worth what, 53 to 58 trillion dollars. I mean,
$1 trillion, yes.
and we're right at 1% of the population controlling the wealth. It's insane,
It's insane.
like literally.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about any of the other countries right now, but there's way more than enough.
Mm-hmm.
Why should one man be worth 500 and some billion dollars?
I agree.
One man.
Like, how did that happen?
Well,
Is it necessary?
Can I ask you a question? That's just like saying if you you started your business and you worked your butt off to get your money, your business up to a level.
Mhm.
Are you expected to give your money away?
Yes.
You are.
Don't tell me you love God and you go to church and you're a Christian
I'm not
and you
saying.
don't understand that.
Hold on.
Anybody, anywhere. I don't
I'm
care
not
where
saying
you are.
just. All I'm saying is just.
Let's look at the Catholic ministry.
And what they give
It's
us.
net worth, period. They're drinking out of gold cups with diamonds, rubies, and pearls around it.
He's not exaggerating.
I know he's not exaggerating.
The priest is walking around strapped in gold cloth
Mhm.
Yeah.
with gold crowns and everything. The Catholic ministry itself, Doc, is worth trillions.
Trillions.
It's insane. From the church house to the corporate house.
And I get what you're saying, but I'm just asking a question as far as
Yeah.
just give away your money.
Bro, it's not a fact of giving. It's the Bible. I'm saying
I was
biblically.
getting ready to
Well,
say
I
the
mean,
Bible
if we-
is
nothing wrong- yeah,
Everybody in this room would say I'm a
a
Christian.
mandate.
Pretty much every business you walk in, man, there are more Catholics in the top of every corporation that you go into that love God.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mhm.
their conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding the illustration that the Bible gives
Yes.
in the walk of God.
That's right.
You can't undo that.
Mhm.
So
Give-
so don't go to
giving.
church and hold your hand up, and you could do that, but in reality, when you walk outside of those walls
That's it.
and you look at the struggle, the suffering of a community,
Yes.
Correct.
Black America itself,
Mm-hmm.
we're bringing Ukrainians in, we're bringing Afghanistanians in.
Yeah.
I respect that. Asians in, and they get a yellow brick road.
Mhm.
Correct.
We as Black people, man, have been here.
You're right.
Where's our yellow
Yellow
brick
brick
road?
And
Forget the 40 acres in the movie.
forget that.
We just-
man.
yeah. I get what you're
Yeah,
saying.
we want the
I mean,
40 acres
it's
in the
just- it was
view.
just
That's
a
more work.
question to
And-
see where your mind.
I'm
was
sorry, man.
because
No,
But it's real.
But
you came
that
like
leads-
you attacked me, man.
No, that was out of love for everybody.
But-
okay.
You sensitive?
that leads into this conversation of where I was talking about, because the war on poverty has been here. I think, Dr. V, we were just talking about it. Lyndon Johnson
Oh yeah.
started the war.
Oh
on
yeah.
poverty.
You want me to read that?
Read that
I
for
got
me.
some stuff for you. I can read this. It says 58 years ago today, President Lyndon B. Johnson delivered his first State of the Union address promising an unconditional war on poverty in America. Looking at the wreckage since, it's not hard to conclude that poverty won.
And you say 58 years ago.
58 years
years.
ago.
58 years ago.
Yeah.
And like you say, where's our yellow brick road?
Mhm.
Where's our? So if you funneling this money in and you're doing it now, the government is, like we say, the welfare system. They funnel money in the system to help people, as they say, to better themselves. But as I ask, if that system was to do that, why are there still people that haven't bettered themselves? You know,
'Cause
in
everybody don't have the
2012,
same.
this is just in 2012, the
Mhm.
federal government spent $668 billion to fund 126 separate anti-poverty programs. That was just in 2012. So you saying in 10 years we didn't do anything? We really hadn't cured anything in 10 years? That's like Jerry Lewis in that telethon. He didn't raise money for those people. I mean, you should see One Healed Child, but I'm just saying, at this rate, what's happening?
Right.
The state and local governments kicked in another $284 billion, bringing a total of the anti-poverty bill since 2012, in 2012 alone, not since, but in 2012 alone, to $1 trillion. That amounts to $20,610 to every poor person in America.
And let me put this.
Go ahead.
Is that the end of that?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to put this on your mind. So while you thinking on that and y'all getting ready to speak on that, it says war on poverty as enunciated by Lyndon Johnson on January 8th was not only to relieve the symptoms of poverty, but to cure it. And above all, to prevent it. So think about that. Has that happened? Measured against this objective, the war on poverty has not just been a failure, it has been catastrophic, and it was supposed to help America's poor become self sufficient, and it has made them dependent and dysfunctional.
I know it's late in the hour, man. One question out of all of that, out of everything that we read or you guys read, would we say that everything that we experience in our walk of life, when it comes from the system, the government, is intentional?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Because as I said,
Intentional, except for the situational things that happen, that occur. Like when we talked last night about things people can't prevent, things you didn't see coming. People went to sleep in Ukraine, wealthy, etc., well off. They woke up in poverty. You know, certain situations.
That was intentional.
Intentional from that perspective.
Their system is the result of the intentionalism of
somebody
another
else's
system.
mouth. Yeah.
Somebody that
Right.
runs a system.
Yeah.
That right there is a perfect example of the selfishness of the leadership in this world.
Yes.
Yes.
Because how his selfish decisions or his cabin or his
Right.
people around him, the choices that they made impacted millions of people, displaced millions of people.
Right.
Yes.
So the government sets down and makes a decision like that,
Mhm.
and we'll never know the real reason why,
Right.
no matter
Right.
what the media
Right.
says. But to be a man and understand that I got kids,
Mhm.
I got women, and I got families that are living a normal life, and I'm going to impact that,
Right.
and that matter,
Right.
that's insane.
That is
But that's a
insane.
profound example of the world that we live in right there.
Mhm.
And it can happen overnight.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it is getting late in the hour. Are there any solutions? Are there any resolutions? Is there anything that anyone can really do to come out of poverty or change their impoverished situation?
First off,
Definitely.
I would say, changing of their mindset. Perfect. I mean, that's the first thing first. Change your mindset. You see
Yeah.
you're in a bad situation. Figure out, YouTube it, internet it, how to remove yourself from that situation, and change your whole thought process and step into that process of getting out of there. That's one way. That's one solution.
Yeah.
Illustration. 2021 black spending power reached record high. A record high. 2021. I
You mean during the
understand.
pandemic when everything was
Understand we're being infused with stimulus
Right.
monies, right?
right?
Mhm.
Right. So the record, we reached the high of $1.6 trillion in spending.
Spending, not
Spending.
saving.
Wow.
Now this will blow your mind.
Mhm.
At $1.6 trillion in spending, our net worth dropped. How does that happen?
Right.
We spend it all.
It's the mindset,
None
like
came
he
in
said.
We will spend that
Understanding.
money.
It's the mindset.
Mindset.
And we will spend that money where we want to, and just think about how we could flip poverty in our own communities by simply choosing a different way to spend the money.
Or where to spend
And
it.
that's why I'm saying a
Where to
different
spend
way
it.
to spend it, and spending it with
You
Right.
spend it with
your
your own
brother,
community.
your community, your people.
But
What do
you
what do
also-
you think the racial gap between white and black is? The financial gap.
The wealth gap. Ooh.
Well, the wealth gap is at 27% different.
Man, let me give you $1. It's $11 trillion.
That's a lot of money.
That's
a lot of
That's
money.
a big gap to close.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
And we can talk about that
What's
because
that
that comes from
percentage?
systematic things and old money that was built off
Yeah.
when we couldn't make
Well,
money.
you can say it's built off of old money, but once again, it's the way we spend our money. Stop renting apartments or renting houses to start buying them.
Right.
That's the main thing. Instead of going to Florida for spring break and taking these lavish trips, the money you're gonna spend out there, why don't you spend it within your own self and build something or create something that could add more money? And once you reach a certain amount of money, then you can go out and do the extra stuff. But first and foremost, empower yourself to move forward.
Mm.
And it would be great if everybody could own, but that's not the case. And
Right.
I don't think
mean-
that'll ever be the case. But I know what you're saying. Sometimes people have to rent.
We have to
and
start. We have to start.
I mean,
Gotta start.
you got to start somewhere. You're right,
Yeah.
but instead of like I said, going out and going to Vegas and blowing
Right.
$500
Absolutely.
at the slot machine.
Do better with the money.
Yeah, do better
Yes.
with your money.
I agree with that.
And man, I'm okay with people enjoying life.
Yeah.
Yeah, enjoy life.
I
but
think when we share these numbers, man, these numbers are fluff. They're stats.
Yes.
Mhm.
And these stats, man, you could look them up over here and these look like this. Then you go look them up over here and they're different.
Right.
There's the consistency. They're in the same area,
Yeah.
but they're never really consistent. But the biggest thing is understanding, man, that Black America is behind the 8 ball because of
Yes.
slavery. Our history
Right.
impacts us today.
Right.
Yes.
So you hear the terminology, my history is my tomorrow,
Yeah.
Yes.
because I have to live in that thing.
Right.
So understanding, man, how we dealt with that and so many things we were not allowed to do for so many years.
Mhm.
So we're coming from behind the 8 ball.
Right.
And then not to
Absolutely.
mention that our counterparts outnumber us when it comes to the body count.
Mhm.
For that matter of fact, man, Hispanics outnumber us by at least 15 million now in America, which is almost something you'd be like, what? But it's real.
It's real.
Yeah.
So we're in a
and
different space right now.
We're in a different space. And then when you think about that, think about health care and the cost of our medical, any type of thing you go have done. So whether
Man,
it's dental or
milk is
eyewear.
expensive.
And so, but what I'm saying is we got to pay the same price they got to pay.
Mm.
And so we already, so like you said, we're behind the 8 ball. So when you look at that from that perspective, it's like,
Yeah.
that's one of the things you said, what can we do or what can be done to help poverty? That's something that can be done to help poverty if they balance that out. Lower, as far as health care,
Right.
lower that, balance it out for people so that more people can afford it.
I would definitely stand on, man, they need to do for Black America the same thing that they're doing for
everybody.
refugees that they're bringing
Yes,
in.
absolutely.
Black America has earned that.
Mhm.
Every you can look in every country in America alone has paid reparations to so many different races of people.
Mhm.
Mm.
Mhm.
But as you said earlier, we still ain't got that 40 acres and a mule.
No, man. We want the yellow brick road made
Yeah.
out of gold.
But I'm just saying,
It's like,
I get what you're saying, but I'm just saying.
because I ain't finna plow and
I ain't
finna.
plowing
I
no
just said
field
that's
either.
too much work
Yeah.
I
coming
ain't
with
plowing
that
either.
at this point.
And in interest, I own half of California by now. I want the interest on mine.
and the other thing before we exit is, I'm just trying to bring that to the surface. When you
Yeah.
said, what can we do or what can be done? And the other thing would be childcare. Now, I don't have children, but I talked about single parents last night. It seems from what I hear, the cost of childcare is ridiculous all by itself. So that seems like something else that could be addressed and balanced
You can
out.
pay
So it makes
up to
sense.
$500 plus a week.
I
if
don't-
you
I
got
don't even
3 children
understand
under the age of 5.
how people are actually surviving. So locking something in place that gives a consistent child tax credit.
Yeah. Can I read a quote for you guys before
Yes.
C Stats walk us out here?
Yes.
The quote is very simple, man, and straight to the point. It says you cannot get rid of poverty by giving people money.
Hmm.
It's not gonna happen.
Not gonna happen.
Message to our government.
Yeah.
Wow.
Find
Yeah.
a better way. And we
Mhm.
thank you again for joining us. We heard your voices and we enjoyed our conversation. We ask you to come back and join us next week. We're going to have a different subject. We're going to have fun. We're going to talk. We're going to do all we do. But as we leave you, we always say, always protect your mind.
We're gonna do all we could do. You heard what C Stats
We're
said.
going to do all we can do.
All we could do.
You're not gonna live that one down.
Have a good night.
Good night.